I've mentioned before in a couple of recent videos that now that I'm back in the US, I'm trying to take full advantage of all the graphic novels on loan that my library has to offer. And as I also mentioned in a few of the recent previous videos, I'm trying to alternate between comics and franchises I know well and stuff that I don't know at all, and I'm just kind of wandering into blind and exploring as I go. And this is one of the latter categories. I know nothing about Shang-Chi, or at least I knew nothing about Shang-Chi when I picked up this graphic novel. I know that the character was a 2021 movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I didn't get around to seeing that movie for no particular reason. Just after having kids, I don't get around to seeing a lot of movies. So I was aware that the movie existed. I think I saw some trailers for it, but I never saw the movie. I don't know anything about the character, so was going into this one completely blind. And fair warning, most of this review is just going to be me stumbling around blind, asking questions about this character, not understanding stuff. So feel free to bail now if you want. You won't probably get a lot of useful information in this review, but I'll try and talk through some of the questions I have. And maybe if you know more about Marvel Comics, you can help me with some of these questions. So first thing, Marvel Platinum, the definitive Shang-Chi. This is apparently a series called Marvel Platinum, or is Marvel Platinum the definitive the name of the series, and Shang-Chi is the name of the title? I Googled this before filming this review. And I'm familiar that Marvel has a lot of different series in its reprint line. There's Marvel Epic, Marvel Masterworks, the Essential Marvels, the Mini Master collections, and I've reviewed some of them on this channel before. Marvel Platinum, I looked this up and couldn't seem to find any information on Google or Wikipedia. I mean, what is Marvel Platinum? What is the... Yeah, what is the angle for this reprint series line? What distinguishes this from the other Marvel reprints? I don't know. But anyways, this is called the definitive Shang-Chi, and I guess this volume is meant to be reprinting the very best Shang-Chi stories from the last 30 years. So it's the definitive Shang-Chi from the last 30 years. So we start in 1997 and work up to 2021. So yeah, okay. I guess that's the last 30 years. I mean, all of these 30 years were after I stopped reading comics. But yeah, I guess that's what happens when you get older, huh? The time goes by. But still, it's a little bit strange that the definitive Shang-Chi starts in 1997, because even without knowing anything about this character, I think to myself, okay, this character had to have originated in the 1970s with the kung fu boom that was going on at the time, and, you know, Bruce Lee being at the height of his popularity, etc. And sure enough, you go to Wikipedia, and yes, this Shang-Chi originated in a comic called Kung Fu in the 1970s. But I guess the definitive Shang-Chi starts in 1997. Okay. Now, as you can see, the definitive Shang-Chi largely consists of him appearing in other people's comics. So 3 volumes of X-Men in 1997. Then we jump to Wolverine in 2008. Then Spider-Man in 2010. And then we get into Masters of Kung Fu, which I guess is Shang-Chi's comics. So we start off with Volume 2. And we've got, in 2015, Issue 1, Issue 2, Issue 3, Issue 4. And then we go to 2017, where we have Master of Kung Fu, Volume 1. What's going on there? How come it starts out as Volume 2 in 2015, and then the number goes down to Volume 1 in 2017? I mean, if they... Shouldn't Volume 2 come after Volume 1? And then The Legend of Shang-Chi from February 2021. Okay, so that's the lay of the land. We start off with the X-Men comics. Now, these issues, this collection does have a little bit of an introduction at the beginning of each new storyline to try and orient you a little bit. Although they use up more than half of that introduction to talk about the creators. Well, okay, fair enough. You got to give the creators their dues. Despite these 2 paragraphs of introduction, I didn't find that sufficient to orientate me to the story that was happening most of the time. But then, as any comic book fan knows, sometimes you just have to pick stuff up the newsstand and try and figure out what the ongoing story is, and to a certain extent, that's all part of the fun. So these opening stories are Shang-Chi with the X-Men. Now, yeah, look at Wolverine here, huh? I mean, I guess in comics, artists are allowed a fair degree of leeway with how they portray the superheroes. It just struck me as a little bit ridiculous here. And when we go to the next issue, we see, the next storyline, we see Wolverine is looking much more normal. So, yeah, I don't know if that was just simply artist interpretation, or if there was some sort of reboot that happened. But, anyways. So, reading this story about Shang-Chi fighting with the X-Men, and at one point, I wish I would have... yes, here he is. He's talking about his father. And he says, "My friend, the beast who was my father, was often called the most insidious man on earth." Now, like I said, I didn't know anything about this series before starting. But if you're a fan of Pulp Fiction, see if you can put this together. A Chinese guy, he's the villain, and they call him Insidious in bold, right? So immediately I thought, the Insidious Fu Manchu. So the Insidious Fu Manchu I talked about on this channel once before, and I'll leave a link to in the description down below. It was a series of Pulp Fiction detective novels that were released, I believe, in the 1920s, about an evil Chinese genius called Fu Manchu, or the Insidious Fu Manchu, who was trying to take over the world and who was foiled by an English detective and his sidekick. So I thought, is there any connection between Shang-Chi's father and the Insidious Fu Manchu? And so I Googled it, and sure enough, in the 1970s, in the Kung Fu comic in which Shang-Chi originated from, his father was the insidious Dr. Fu Manchu. And if you know anything about those old Fu Manchu novels or comics, you know that they were infamously, blatantly racist. I mean, it's not just that Fu Manchu was evil, it's that the whole yellow race was evil and scheming to take over the world. And, you know, I mean, they were originally written in the 1920s. So, yeah, that's an interesting little connection, huh? I don't know what the 1970s comics were. According to Wikipedia, Marvel ended up changing the name, not because of they were worried about the connection with these racist books, at least according to Wikipedia, but because they lost the rights to Fu Manchu. So they had to change the rights to something like Xing Zhu, became the new name for Shang-Chi's father. And it's supposed to be the same character, I think, but instead of calling him Fu Manchu, we just changed the name. So, yeah, interesting little bit of cultural history around this character. Interesting that Disney would pick up this character to be part of their Marvel Cinematic Universe, because the origins of this character, I guess, are not an authentic Chinese culture, but in the 1970s Marvel comic book influenced by the Kung Fu craze, which itself, the character had the roots in a racist 1920s novel by an Englishman. And now this character becomes the face of Marvel's diversity with the Shang-Chi movies, which, I've not seen the movie. For all I know, the movie can be quite good. But, yeah, interesting. Well, I'm on the topic. I guess I might as well discuss the other thing, which was niggling at the back of my mind throughout reading this collection, is that Shang-Chi, throughout this whole thing, struck me as very stereotypical. Like the mysterious Chinese man with the inscrutable wisdom and ancient philosophy. And it just seemed like it was exploitative, or what's the word I want to use? Appropriative. That it was, I don't know. But at the same time, I'm reluctant to make comments about this one way or the other, because I'd like to hear what Chinese people think about this. I mean, nobody cares what I think about this, right? Being a 40-something-year-old white man. Some of the people who worked on some of these comics, according to their bios that are given in this book, are themselves of Asian origin or minorities. So, yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think about this? I don't want to say anything really. I'd like to hear what other people have to say about this. Okay, anyways, that out of the way, we get Shang-Chi's adventures with the X-Men. And that storyline wraps up rather nicely. It's relatively readable. Then after that storyline wraps up, because this is an ongoing monthly comic magazine, it immediately sets up another storyline, which we will not be following, because our Shang-Chi's involvement in the storyline has finished. So we're going next to Wolverine First Class number 9, where he meets Shang-Chi. Now, in this comic, Wolverine appears to be meeting Shang-Chi for the first time, which is a contradiction from the previous comic, because in the previous comic over here, Wolverine is also meeting Shang-Chi for the first time. So, like I said, I know nothing about this period in comics. So was there some sort of continuity reset in Marvel Comics between 1997 and 2008, which would have explained that? There probably was, for all I know. But yeah, Shang-Chi in this case teaches Wolverine the art of self-control. And makes Wolverine a better person, thanks to Shang-Chi's mystic Asian wisdom. And then we have Shang-Chi teaming up with Spider-Man in Shadowland Spider-Man 1. which was okay. I found this a little bit boring. It was, a part of some larger storyline, which I wasn't really invested in. Spider-Man always is fun, and he has some good Spider-Man humor in here. Shang-Chi himself comes off as a little bit boring in these issues, but then, Shang-Chi is given kind of a thankless job of being Spider-Man's straight man, the straight man to Spider-Man. And this brings up an issue maybe that I should have said at the beginning of this review, is that it's hard to really give a review to this graphic novel because it's just a series of different stories written over 30 years by different artists and writers and varying largely in style. And perhaps over those years, we can see some sort of evolution in the art of comic storytelling. So the ones from the late 90s are very talky. And then as we move into the ones in the 2010s, we see that the comics are a lot more visual and a lot less talky. Now, that could just be these particular issues. I'm not sure if we could draw any definitive conclusions from that, but I certainly feel that comics seem to have gotten a lot more visual and a lot less wordy in recent years. I don't know. What do you guys think? And then on to Secret Wars, Masters of Kung Fu. Yeah, so this appears to be yet another reset in Marvel continuity. Shang-Chi's father is back again. Of course, comic books. Villains are always dying and coming back. But his father, who is not Fu Manchu in these issues, but is Xing Zhu, is leader of an evil group. And Shang-Chi becomes the leader of a ragtag group of misfits who he has to train into becoming a coherent group. And it's readable. These issues I actually quite enjoyed. I thought these were quite readable. So let's just skip past this. I don't think I have anything else to say. All right, and then we get, I guess, Masters of Kung Fu #1, 2018, which is a tongue-in-cheek story, which is making fun of a lot of the cliches of evil villain stories and ninja stories. So, the henchmen are talking about how they're only doing this for the money. They're talking about the So for example, Shang-Chi falls into the trap, and they say, "Have a nice trip, Shang-Chi. See you next fall." Ugh, Brad, come on. We agreed you wouldn't say that. The whole thing is just tongue-in-cheek and making fun of itself. It's rats who are being taught how to use kung fu. It's all right. I was debating, while I read this, whether or not it really worked. Whether it was funny or whether it was just stupid. It's somewhere in that line. It's all right, I guess. And then the last one, Masters of Kung Fu, where Shang-Chi is fighting Lady Deathstroke, Death's Strike, who I think I recognize her from X-Men 2, right? The X-Men 2 movie that came out around 2002 had Lady Deathstrike in it, right? Right? That was her, right? I'm remembering that. So she and Shang-Chi are fighting over a blade here. And that's the end of it. And like I said, some of these issues are enjoyable, and some of them are a little bit of a slog. It all evens out to about all right. I did try and do some research on this volume before filming this review. I went to Amazon, in which some people had given it a star review, but no person had written a review of it. And I went to Goodreads, in which there was just one review. And that person said, I couldn't really enjoy this because there were a lot of different stories and I had to give it back to the library, so I couldn't really get immersed in it. Apparently they were reading this on a deadline before the library due date. I also got this from the library, although did not find my library due dates to be any problem. I mean, it's a comic book. I read it like in 3 days. But, you know, I guess it depends on how busy you are and how fast you read comic books. And that is all I have to say about this. So, by all means, if you are more familiar with the character or this series or any of these issues, drop me a comment and let me know what I missed. But I'm going to shut it down here.